Alright, so in this video, I'm going to be talking about last week's flagrant episode with DJ Akademiks, because this was something else. You know, of course, the fake laughing and the leg slapping and Andrew's accent, all that stuff was out of control. But probably the worst part about it, which a lot of fans in the comments were pointing out, was how much they're interrupting the guest. I mean, Akademiks couldn't talk for more than like 5 seconds without somebody interrupting him and completely derailing the conversation. And I gotta give him credit because he did handle it well. You know, I think most people would just get so annoyed by this. Like, he could never finish a thought. You know, as soon as he'd start to tell a story, Andrew would have something to say about it, of course. And then once he gets going, there's no stopping him. I mean, he acts like the guests on his podcast are just there to listen to him talk, and they shouldn't be interrupting him. Like, at one point, Akademiks is talking about being at a party with Richard Mille, you know, the watchmaker. And he's talking about how he's trying to finesse him into giving him a free watch. And Schultz, he just hears Richard Mille and starts going off about how much he hates the watches. And he's like, do not buy that watch. And Akademiks is like, I didn't say I was going to buy it. I said I was trying to get a free one from him. But then Schultz just continues on, and everybody else starts chiming in about how Schultz is being a hater because he doesn't like the watches. And then Akademiks is trying to get back on track. He's like, can I finish my thought here? And nobody's listening to him. It's like he's not even there. It's crazy. I think they just invited him on so they could talk over him the whole time. And then once he finally gets their attention, Schultz is like, all right, continue.
A Richard Mille party, who I was trying to finesse a Richard Mille. He doesn't pay.
Don't buy
the majority
that
of people...
watch.
Huh?
It's an awful
No, I wasn't
watch.
gonna pay. I was around the guy who, like, the Richard Mille guy. So I was trying to
Respect
get it
to
for
him
free.
as like a watch engineer, like his ability to build a watch, but like the watches are disgusting.
He was a hater.
No.
That's some hater shit.
They're truly
It's
disgusting.
hater shit.
They're very
Like,
gaudy.
It's just because you don't like it.
I've seen
but it's
one or
hater
two
shit.
I
It's
don't
like,
hate,
oh, I'm a
but
Nike guy. I don't
typically I
like
hate them.
Adidas.
They're disgusting.
This is what I was gonna... Hold on.
They scream
Ew.
poverty.
Wait. This is what I was gonna say to you.
Scream.
This is what I was gonna say to you about streaming.
Yeah.
And people don't understand this
It's
about
the
streaming.
orange
How you feel about bust downs?
Lamborghini
How you feel about
Urus.
bust downs?
Well, I have a yellow Lamborghini.
I don't like bust
Urus.
downs.
Don't me this.
You can't get
Wait,
rid of the Urus.
hold
Can
on.
I help you? Can I help you with things?
Can I make this point about music, brother? Because I know you want to talk about cars.
Go?
What car you got?
A beetle.
I have a.
Jesus Christ.
And that's pretty much how the whole podcast went. You know, Akademiks, he'd try to tell a story, usually about a party he was at or a party he heard about. And immediately, once he starts telling the story, Schultz or somebody else interrupts, and then it just goes all over the place and takes forever to get back on track. If he even does get back on track, you know, half the stuff he's talking about, I don't think he got to finish what he was saying. Like, at one point, Akademiks was trying to tell a story, and I don't think Schultz was listening at all, because he just reaches over him and grabs a container of Zyn, you know, those nicotine pouches, and then he just interrupts him. He's like, dude, you gotta try these. And Akademiks is like, no, I'm not interested. He's like, I have an addictive personality. I will start that shit and I'll never be able to stop. But Schultz just keeps telling him to try them, and he spends like 2 minutes just begging him to try them. He's like, no, you're gonna be fine. Don't worry about it. And he asks him probably like 7 or 8 times if he'll try one.
If we're gonna think about this night, you have 3 people who go to a party. It's Kylie Jenner's party. They're all intoxicated. Apparently, one of them is about to be passed out.
Try one of these.
What is this?
This is
that's some weed shit. I'm good.
It's not weed. It's a Zyn.
It's nicotine.
Oh hell no.
No.
You're gonna be hooked. No, I'm good. I'm good.
It's not about a hook.
You won't get hooked.
It's
Oh,
this,
hell no. I'm good.
It's like a dip.
No,
Just try it.
No,
Will
I
you
can't-
just try it?
I got addictive personality for real.
This is
Like,
not going to make you addicted.
Has an
No.
addictive
Like, I have a really addictive... like,
Hennessy,
you see,
it's-
whatever you're doing right there, you're going to see me, like, with a mouthful of acorns, my nigga. We're not doing this shit. You're not about to go get me, like,
Good,
nah, we're not doing
Just
this.
try it.
Nah, I can't do it, brother.
You can literally take it out a second
no.
afterwards. You're not going to feel
oh,
anything.
hell no. Hell
just
to the
try
no.
one.
No, I can't do it, brother.
White
I
boy
can't do
shit,
it.
bro.
Just try the white boy
No,
shit for one.
no,
Why are
no.
you so afraid? We drank
Son,
Hennessy the whole
hold
time.
on.
We finished a whole...
Andrew, I can't do it.
That's so funny. You
Yo,
don't even
I
know.
am, like,
It is
I'm
so
an
funny.
addict. One thing I've
How
realized...
many fluid ounces is it? Maybe we could do the math.
I can't do it.
Why not just try one?
No, because I'm going to be addicted.
You're not going to be
You're not gonna
addicted.
be
It's such a
addicted.
stupid thing to think.
You're
When you,
actually gonna hate
and when you see
Also,
me...
you're probably an
Wait,
alcoholic
hold on.
anyway, so what are you concerned about Zyn for?
Probably.
So, all right.
Yeah, so that's what Flagrant has turned into, him begging his guests to try a nicotine pouch. And I love that he says, you're not going going to be addicted. That's such a stupid thing to think. It's like, what the hell are you talking about? It's stupid to think that you can't get addicted to it. I mean, if you've heard Tucker Carlson talk about it, that dude is obsessed with it. I think he does like 24/7. But Schultz is acting like Akademiks doesn't understand what it is or something, but he understands exactly what it is, and that's why he doesn't want to do it. And then at the end of that, I think Akash called him an alcoholic. It's crazy the way they treat their guests here. But Akash is basically just like, well, you're already addicted to alcohol, so this can't be much worse for you. But it's like, all right, doesn't that show that he has an addictive personality and what being addicted to two things is better than one? So these guys are just out of control. Like also earlier on the podcast, you know, Akademiks, he's into hip hop news and stuff. So they have him on there to talk about that. And he's trying to talk about some of the recent stuff going on with P. Diddy. And he was telling the story about how he was in London and P. Diddy was there as well. And he heard that P. Diddy wanted to meet him, but he had already heard some bad P. Diddy stories. So he ended up not going. And now he's like, man, thank God I dodged a bullet with that. But Schultz and them, they interrupt him so much. It takes about, I think, 8 or 9 minutes for him to wrap up the story. And it should have taken probably less than a minute. But they interrupt him so much with all these stupid jokes. And then Andrew starts doing his fake laugh. And then they just have so much stupid shit to say. And Andrew, I think, is asking questions just so he could basically answer them himself. And the fans were definitely annoyed by this. And same thing with Akademiks. He's like, can you let me finish my story already?
So I'm in London. I go to London for the first time.
Yeah. How was it?
London was kind of cool. It's definitely not America, though.
Why don't you?
No, shit.
God damn, yo, Ak, you on it, bro.
Ak, sometimes you're the most brilliant person that I've ever met.
Thank you.
And sometimes you be saying some shit.
Anyway. So I'm in London. Diddy had previously hit me up to say, hey, listen, stop through my side chick.
Basketball nicknames. Earl Monroe, Earl the Pearl, Black Jesus.
Novak's Kyrie.
Novak's. Do you see the drop in creativity?
No, Novak's Kyrie works. Like, my dude's going to do some extraordinary things because he hasn't been vaccinated. Come on, stop playing. Anyway, so I'm in. Hold on, this all makes sense.
Fast talking out. Fast talking out. I love that.
He's good.
No, stop it.
This guy's good.
No.
This guy's good.
I got to say the story, okay?
Say the story, bro.
Check this out. So I'm in London.
Yeah.
Never met Diddy.
Exactly.
Never been around him.
Are you excited to meet Diddy?
I wasn't trying to meet Diddy. I usually.
Why not?
Here's my thing. I stay away from these industry muffs. You know why?
I've had people literally tell me they avoid Diddy prior to all of this.
No, I avoid everybody
Like
in the
friends.
industry.
I'd be like, I don't f with Diddy. Like, I don't want to do anything with Diddy. And I was like,
I'm in Miami. Remember the last time I ever talked, like Diddy reached
Would you
out to
fight
me.
Young M.A.? Young M.A.?
Why would I fight Young M.A.?
Alex.
Like, that's my people's. Like,
No,
what's up,
I mean,
Alex?
like,
Yo, he got a
you wouldn't
nickname
fight
for Young
Alex,
M.A.
you fight girls?
You wouldn't fight a gay dude.
Let's fight girls.
No, you wouldn't fight a gay dude, but I'm saying if there was a girl who was like a dude.
Young M.A. is this shit.
Can I tell my story?
Yeah, bruh.
God damn it.
Tell me your story.
Hey, can I tell my fucking London story?
Yeah, tell your story.
Now,
Tell us London story.
I'm trying to go out.
Come on.
Come on
I'm
now.
trying to go out.
You know why we still not part of London?
Okay, yeah, all right. Racist. Anyway, so I'm in London. I'm trying to go out for the night.
Yeah, so that was pretty bad, especially considering whenever Akademiks tries to interrupt Schultz, he always shuts it down. He's like, no, let me finish. Like at one point, Schultz is talking about how Adam 22 is a marketing genius because he let his wife have sex with another guy. And Akademiks tries to chime in and be like, dude, you're crazy. But of course, Schultz is like, no, wait, let me finish here. And then he goes on to explain it. But of course, Schultz, when he's talking, he has all the time in the world. But then when Akademiks tries to make a point, he has like 5 seconds to make it before everybody jumps in. And I just think it's weird how much credit Schultz is giving Adam here. Like saying this is genius because you let your wife have sex with a guy. I mean, what the hell is he talking about? And he breaks it down. He's like, well, he's trying to distract from a story. You know, his employees were leaving. People are saying the business is falling apart, which, I mean, he was using this to distract from a story, but that wasn't the story. And they all know that, but I don't think Schultz wanted to bring it up. Akademiks, he's like, oh shit, we talking about this? But then Schultz brings up his employees leave and he's like, oh, okay, I was thinking about something else. But the other story, you know, the real story that Adam was trying to distract from are the underage allegations, which of course Schultz doesn't want to bring up. But Akademiks, you could tell he disagrees with Schultz. You know, he doesn't think Adam is a genius for doing this. And he's like, who the hell thinks, you know what, my business isn't doing very well. I'm going to go let my wife have sex with another guy. And everybody laughs when he says that, except for Schultz. You know, Schultz is usually the first one to be rolling around on the ground and doing this fake outrageous laugh. But then in this situation, since somebody is disagreeing with him, then he has to be all serious and he has to explain why he's wrong.
I think he's a genius in marketing. And I think he had to He had to pivot, right? This is similar to the Tucker thing we were talking about, or the wait for it. It's the Fox News shit. You kill a story with another story, and that other story has to be a big fucking story. What's the story he had to kill?
Adam?
Yes.
Should we not bring it up? Let's go.
No, bring it up. Obviously, the Figmunity boys, who I fucking love. Shout out to AD, shout out to T-Rel, shout out to Duno. I'm going to just go with the fact that No Jumper was experiencing a very difficult branding situation. Yeah. It's a podcast that was brand around LA street culture, right? And now the LA street dudes had left the podcast, right? And everybody's talking about No Jumpers in shambles. No Jumpers falling apart. Is this the end of No Jumper? All these vlogs, everybody's talking about this happening. You need to kill a story with a story. Now, did he pay the ultimate price for killing a story?
No.
Now, wait for it. Did he pay the ultimate price for killing a story?
Nobody says, yo, hey, my company isn't doing good. Yo, bring my wife in. Let her get fucked. Yo,
Absolutely
who
hysterical.
does that?
It's kind of genius, though.
Absolutely
Low-key.
hysterical.
Genius?
Kind
Yo,
of
Mark,
genius.
do something else.
Asking
Kind
the
of
right
genius.
people.
Now,
Yeah.
maybe that's what I did.
Listen, I would never do that, but I'm also not in porn.
Branding genius, and this one guy said
Money is always going to
Absolutely.
be a motivator, and it's always going to be a driving force in the decisions you make, especially when you have a kid. Like, it just is. How do you create security? And I understand both of them are looking at this, and they're like, there's an end. Y'all can't be stars forever.
Yeah.
You can't be in the rap game and talking with gang members forever. Like, it stops eventually.
And I like that Andrew's acting like Adam did this for the future of their kid. Like, what the hell is he talking about? That is so backwards. I mean, no matter what, Adam should have a good amount of money. But I guess for the future of their kid, he's like, you know what? I think it'd be a good idea for my daughter's mom to go out and have sex with some guy on camera. That's definitely going to help. I mean, I guess she will need money for therapy when she gets older, so maybe that's the idea here. But, you know, Andrew, he is right in terms of Adam doing this to kill a story. You know, I think this was always in his back pocket. Like, if anything goes south, then we can just pimp you out and you can go have sex with some guy and then we'll make a ton of money from that. I think that was always the thought process, but that is not genius. That is shameless. I mean, any remotely famous person could do something like this and make a ton of money from it, but most people, this is the last thing they'd want to let their wife do, and most people have some dignity and don't want to just be known for this. Like, Adam basically accepted this is his legacy now. So, I mean, this is not genius. This is just desperation and shamelessness. So also there's another argument that they got into that went on for like 20 to 30 minutes. And this was crazy. These are some of the worst takes maybe I've heard from Schultz. Like, that Adam 22 one was pretty bad, but this was wild. So Schultz and Alex, you know, the producer all the way on the left, they both work with Charlamagne the God, and he's helped them a lot in their career. So they start talking about how he's probably the greatest radio show host of all time. At first, Schultz was saying he's the best of his generation, but then he's like, objectively, he's probably the best of all time. And then he says, if Charlamagne started radio back when Howard Stern was still in his prime, we would have never heard of Howard Stern again, which just sounds ridiculous. And Akademiks disagrees with him. He says that Wendy Williams and Howard Stern are probably the top two, and Alex and Andrew get offended by that. So then they just start telling him he has no idea what he's talking about, which is hilarious. And then they start making all these points. They're like, oh, he's international. You don't realize everybody in the world knows him. And then, of course, they're barely letting Akademiks talk. He can barely even make a single point. And the way Schultz talks to him, it's like, I know what I'm talking about, dude. You have no idea what you're saying. Just listen to me. Even though most people in the comments are disagreeing with Schultz.
Charlamagne is the greatest radio host in our generation, is not a question. And probably,
I guarantee
objectively speaking, probably the greatest ever, if you really wanted to look at it. Probably the greatest
Is him
ever.
or Howard?
Hold on.
It's only him or Howard
Listen,
that you can talk about.
Wendy is the GOAT. Wendy
How?
turned because she turned what she was doing on.
I walk down the street, I'll walk down the street, I'll ask 10 Asian people, they know who Wendy Williams is, they don't know who she is.
Well, because you're talking about now. Play this.
Back then.
You don't understand.
You're on the
Charlamagne's
internet too much, bro.
He's international.
So you're hold on.
Like, Charlamagne's international.
You're telling me that.
Like, you don't understand.
You don't understand.
You don't
bro.
understand.
Let me tell you something.
Like,
Wendy was popular at a time where hip hop existed primarily, and it was digested primarily in America. So everybody in the world knows who Charl is.
Remember what I told
The only person you could compare Charlamagne to is Howard Stern.
I'd probably give it to Howard, but that's
Now here's
not
the
a diss
difference.
at all.
Here's the difference. Howard came up at a time where radio was way more dominant. Charlotte found a way to take radio programming and compete with everybody on the internet. He turned radio into TV. Now, Howard had a TV show on E. That's kind of how most of us knew Howard.
The only thing I would push back with that...
Let me say this, and this is with all due respect to Howard. Put Charlamagne on radio at the same time as Howard back in the day. Nobody says the name Howard Stern ever
I'm
again.
going to be honest.
No one says the name. No, with the freedom to say whatever you want, like Howard said, nobody says the name Howard Stern
Let me
ever
bring
again.
up a counterpoint.
Hold
on. There's a fucking movie about Howard Stern's life that was probably made hundreds of millions of dollars. They're not. You're not doing that for just anybody. That's a radio guy who wrote a book that was a bestseller, and then they made a movie out of it.
It's because radio was the dominant.
But what other radio person?
And it's funny because Akademiks is a big Charlamagne fan. He mentions that multiple times, but they all act like he's hating on him because he doesn't agree that Charlamagne's as big as Howard Stern or Wendy Williams. Like, just the fact that he's in the same conversation as Howard Stern should be a big enough compliment. And that's what Charlamagne said. He talked about it after this, and he's like, listen, I know, like, I agree that Howard and Wendy, and he named a few other people, are the best. So the dick riding for Charlamagne here is just off the charts. But of course, they're acting like Akademiks is the one out of line here. I mean, they told him he doesn't know what he's talking about, and then proceeded to say that if Charlamagne was around during Howard's prime, we wouldn't have heard of Howard. So obviously, Andrew has no idea what he's talking about. And you know it's bad when his yes man, Akash, doesn't agree with him. You know, even he's like, I'd still say Howard. You know, he had his own movie and everything. But then Schultz is like, well, radio was the dominant form and there wasn't much to listen to. But then when he talks about Charlamagne, he keeps acting like he did this revolutionary move by moving his audience. He keeps saying that he moved his audience from radio to the internet, which I don't really know what he means by that because, I mean, he just did both. He had the radio show and the internet and a YouTube channel, which is smart. You know, that was obviously the future, but I don't think you can consider that moving your audience. You know, I think it's just gaining more of an audience in different places. Like, I'm sure a lot of people discovered The Breakfast Club through YouTube, and I'm sure there are people that were listening to it on the radio, and then they're like, oh, cool, I could go watch this interview, and they do that as well. But if that's moving an audience, then I think pretty much everybody has. I mean, you could say that with podcasts. Like, podcasts are meant to be listened to on Apple Music or Spotify. But then if you have a YouTube channel where people also watch it on there, is that moving an audience? No, nobody would consider that moving an audience. And if that is, then pretty much everybody has moved an audience. You know, every late night show, every radio show, I'm sure, has a YouTube channel. But nobody's going to give Jimmy Kimmel credit for moving his audience to YouTube, which they shouldn't, obviously. That sounds so stupid. So Andrew, he keeps bringing up moving an audience because Akademiks mentions how Howard actually did move his audience over to Sirius and basically like made that platform. And he doesn't even mention this, but also his audience had to start paying for the content as well. But he still moved, I think, like 3 or 4 million people over there. And I mean, I don't know how you compare that to Charlamagne starting a YouTube channel and posting videos there.
Compare people to Howard Stern. Now we got to talk about the ability to move an audience because Howard Stern said, hey, I'm going to motherfucking Sirius. Everybody come there. Now we got to talk about impact in terms of that. So now you have to equate anybody you're going to mention with Howard Stern in moving an audience. And the only thing, that's why I said Wendy, is because Wendy was operating on daytime or whatever, like whatever her slot was, and she brought people to TV. You now have to tell me anybody else beside Howard Stern who has brought an audience from A to B, which is a different meaning.
Charlamagne.
Yeah.
Where to where?
YouTube
Radio
is
to
TV.
internet.
YouTube is TV.
Like, are you crazy?
And not only did he bring it to TV, meaning it was on the TV at that time every single day, and there was 8 other channels you could fucking watch. Yeah. There was millions other channels you could watch, and you tapped in on YouTube.
Son,
no, you can't right now.
So you, of
How
all
can
people,
you
know
not
how
see
hard
YouTube
it is
as
to...
TV? YouTube is the new TV. Yeah. But like, I don't think you're giving enough credit to transitioning the audience from one platform to another, meaning radio to YouTube. You have a...
That was natural.
Hold on.
Bro. I'm going to tell you why it was natural.
What's
because
natural mean?
Yo, you
it was natural because there's a reason why it existed.
You're moving the goalpost.
No, I'm not moving the goalpost. If that wasn't natural, I wouldn't be a thing.
Can I ask a question?
If I had to compete with radio when the audience was only at radio, I wouldn't be a thing. The audience was already coming here.
Can I ask a question?
By the way, you know why I'm one of the biggest?
Because why has it Hot 97 took off on Internet.
They
Because
also have video.
they
Every radio
fucking
station got
trash.
video.
Okay, so then,
So you're saying that he was better?
yeah.
Of course. He's
Is
the
he-
best of them. He's the best of
Is
them.
he the best of his generation?
Of course.
Without it. Okay, so we at least acknowledge best of
Yes,
generation.
no,
Okay,
I'm
okay.
agree with that.
And we at least acknowledge that he transitioned his audience from radio to YouTube and brought in people that weren't even listening to the radio to YouTube. Just off of how compelling the interviews are. Yes or no? Yes or no?
Yeah, hold on.
Just can you give it
I'm
a
gonna
yes
say,
or no?
hold on.
That's crazy.
People
You can't
might-
even just say yes or no.
No.
I think you take for granted.
No.
Because you're an internet dude.
He's that
It's
big.
easy to go
No.
internet to internet.
No.
It's hard to go radio to internet.
Yo,
Too big
hold
of a
on.
button fan.
No.
You can't do it.
Is this a button thing? You feel like you gotta defend Joe?
It's not even
He
Joe.
got the biggest Patreon.
No. Who cares about what?
Yo, his Patreon is huge, bro. His
I'm gonna
Patreon
say
is
this.
one
I'm
of the
gonna say
biggest.
this, and y'all gonna think it,
It
sounds
actually
like
really
hate.
bothers us.
Hold on.
It's
I'm
gotta
hold on.
afford
I'm
20
gonna say
different
this.
people playing musical chairs in his
Yo.
living room.
I know we can joke on it. Hold on. I'll say this, and y'all gonna think it's hate. Charlamagne is one of the greatest radio personalities of all time.
I think that long pause was Akademiks being like, oh shit, I can actually talk now. I can make a point. These people are actually finally shutting up for once. You know, like this comment says, they're like, I love Schultz, but you got to admit his most effective strategy for arguments is just not shutting the F up. And it's so funny that Schultz and Alex are acting like Akademiks is so out of line here when he is making sense. Like you could say Breakfast Club was one of the first radio shows on YouTube to gain a following. I guess you could say that. But they didn't transition or move their audience there. I think they gained more of an audience there. Like I'm sure once they started posting to YouTube, they gained more followers, they had more listeners, they gained more popularity. So it benefited them to be on that platform. And even if they weren't on there, YouTube would still be where it's at today. You know, it didn't need Breakfast Club to be successful. So there's a huge difference between that and what Howard did going to Sirius. You know, him going to Sirius, he wasn't going there because he would gain more of a fan base. You know, he only lost listeners, and Sirius wasn't hiring him to entertain the audience that they already have. You know, they didn't have much of an audience, so they hired him for his audience to bring people over. And that's when you kind of see how much you're worth. You know, it's like Joe Rogan going to Spotify. It's similar to that. So Breakfast Club going to YouTube is just not the same, unfortunately. And I'm not trying to take away from their success and how talented they are and like everything they accomplished. Obviously, like that's a really successful show. And, you know, I'll give them credit for realizing the potential of the internet and YouTube and understanding you could grow your audience there. But it is not what Andrew's making it out to be here. You know, they use the internet to promote their show and monetize it in different ways. They did not go there and move their audience and create YouTube by bringing their audience there. Like right here, Andrew literally says, Charlamagne is the only reason hip-hop media exists on YouTube.
The greatest radio host, right? We already acknowledge he's done it the best over here with the handcuffs. And then when you take the handcuffs off on the full unedited interview on YouTube, it becomes hip-hop media exists on YouTube because of him.
Bro,
Yes or no?
no, my nigga.
Okay,
yo,
who
YouTube
started
is
hip hop?
happening.
Who started hip hop media on YouTube then?
But that's what I'm saying. Like,
If you think it's a Breakfast Club, you're crazy.
Just no, tell me who.
Nigga, Breakfast Club was a byproduct of the internet. Charlamagne himself says out of his own mouth.
But
we
who-
saw
what
it
was the hip-hop
our
media
interviews
resource
were
on
going
YouTube?
viral, and
That Piff? Where did you go to get?
the internet changed shit, bro.
like,
No, but
Ag,
where do
what
you
you're
go
not-
to get the content?
That's what I'm saying.
Dat
Like,
Piff? It
what
was
a-
Dat Piff, right? It was the blogs, and it was Breakfast Club on YouTube. Yes or no? Just do the math for me. Tell me the other resource.
Yo, you're not hearing what I'm saying. You're trying to give Breakfast Club credit for creating YouTube in terms of that content.
I didn't
I'm
say
saying that
creating YouTube.
they're a byproduct.
See,
they're a byproduct.
So here's the thing.
Facts.
Here's the thing.
Can I-
So
Yeah, so again, I'm not trying to take anything away from Charlamagne. Like, if Schultz wasn't being so dramatic here, I'd agree. He's probably the best of his generation. But for him to say that hip-hop media wouldn't exist on YouTube, like the audience wouldn't be there because Charlamagne didn't bring his audience there, so nobody would be covering it right now on YouTube, just does not make any sense. I don't think anybody believes that. And again, I don't want to take anything away from him. He should get credit for being one of the earliest radio shows on YouTube, maybe the first one to gain an audience on there. And I'm sure he influenced a lot of people as well. But to say it wouldn't exist if it weren't for him is just way too much. And, you know, I think Schultz wants to give them so much credit for this because he's kind of comparing it to himself, like Alex brings up right here. Schultz, he was one of the first, or he was like the first comedian to blow up on YouTube and social media from posting clips. So Schultz, like, saying that Breakfast Club is the only reason hip hop media exists, he probably wants to think the only reason people post clips of stand-up to YouTube and social media is because of him. And I'll give him credit for being one of the first comedians to post clips to social media, and I think the first one to really blow up doing it. And I'm sure people followed him. They're like, oh shit, it's working for him, I better do this. But either way, comedians blowing up and posting on social media was going to happen no matter what. They didn't need Andrew Schultz to create the comedy genre on social media. Schultz should look at it like, damn, I am lucky. I'm glad I jumped on that trend early and I got to take advantage of it. But of course, Andrew, his ego is out of control, and he thinks about it like, I'm the one that paved the way. I took my talents to social media. If it weren't for me, this comedy genre on YouTube just wouldn't exist or something like that.
Up comedian, and he put his clips out on YouTube, and then those clips blew up. And you're trying to take credit away from Charlotte because
I'll take credit away from him to say, if the internet wasn't busting the way it was, he wouldn't be as big as he is.
Oh, so if you're taking that credit away, like that's stupid.
You can't take credit
he's
for the times changing. The times change to the internet.
I understand the argument.
The times is changing to the internet.
Wait for it.
No one person said we're going to the internet.
What you're trying to say is there's an appetite for this content, and the internet provided a way for people to do it. Now, it takes a person
to do it,
to make that jump.
Yes.
And wait for it. It takes a person to make that jump with talent to get all these people to realize they want to consume that content.
I am a product. I don't say I create. Like, when people give me credit for being a genius, I said I'm also the
How many people copy you that don't succeed?
No. But I'm the benefactor of place and time. I was
how
one
many
of the
people?
first.
How many people copy you?
You're right. But I'm also the benefactor. I am also very honest. I'm the benefactor of being one of the first.
But
and in that moment,
have you continued to succeed?
Every successful person is a benefactor.
You continue to succeed.
Okay.
Why?
And that's what makes you bigger than just a successful person. You become a legend. Hear what I'm trying to say. You have to be able to move an audience if we're talking about Howard Stern. And my whole thing is this. If listen, you keep talking about the internet.
You hating, dog.
I'm hating?
Hold on one second.
Yo, if I would give the credit. I would give the credit. By the way, we're comparing it to, you keep saying hating, but it's like, bro, I'm comparing them to the two biggest in the whole space. Howard Stern, Wendy Williams.
There are plenty of people who put a stand-up clip or a stand-up video up on YouTube before me.
Okay.
I did it, and then it became a trend worldwide. That's not just because the internet blew up. It's because the internet blew up and skill.
Every successful person.
You're Schultz.
Akademiks.
No. He's right.
My point is, you need both. You need skill and you need trends.
You're right, except this. We've watched you exponentially grow to sell out the fucking guard, my nigga. Twice. You're right.
Thank you.
Okay, does any other iteration, other than the Breakfast Club, and I hate this because it feels like I'm hating, and I'm definitely not.
You kind of are, because look at it.
I don't think you're acknowledging the ability to take someone from traditional media. What I think you're doing is you're looking at it through
But there hasn't been anything else.
Listen. You're looking at it through your lens, and you're also looking through Wendy's lens, which is going from traditional to traditional, right?
Yes.
Where there are way less outlets for.
So are you saying traditional to internet?
Let me get out.
Go ahead.
There are way less outlets for distraction. When you're going from.
And I don't understand why anybody goes on this show. This is painful to watch. The whole time everybody's interrupting Akademiks. They don't care what he's saying. Then once Andrew makes a point and Akademiks interrupts him, then he's like, wait, come on, let me finish my point here. And it's crazy. He's the guest on their podcast, and they're like, dude, you're being a hater. You don't know what the hell you're talking about. What are you saying? Even though he knows exactly what he's talking about. And I wish Akademiks asked Schultz, if he had never posted comedy clips to YouTube, would people be doing that right now? Or was he the only one that could have started that trend? I mean, he didn't even really start that trend. Like, Dane Cook was posting stuff to MySpace back in the early 2000s. So that formula was already around. Like, you could say Schultz was the first one to do it with more modern social media. But again, it's like with Breakfast Club going to YouTube. that is, I guess, impressive, and it's cool that they figured out that this is going to be the future, but it's really not this transformative, groundbreaking thing that they make it out to be. I mean, basically everything Schultz does, he acts like it's this game changer. He changed the whole game of comedy. You know, Schultz loves talking about his own success. That's pretty much his shtick, and I'm making a video about this on Patreon. But like with the whole thing in his special last year, you know, instead of just releasing a special, it's got to be this giant thing, and he's got to talk about how much money he made and how he changed the game of comedy once again. And it's just so corny. He calls everything corny. He is the corniest man alive. You know, like also now he's onto this with Madison Square Garden. It's got to be this giant thing. He has to remind everybody every 10 seconds. You know, like with Akademiks right there towards the end, he brought it up, and Schultz is like, remember, I sold it out twice. And he also mentioned this earlier in the podcast. Akademiks is like, yeah, you sold out Madison Square Garden. And Schultz has to interrupt him to be like, actually, I sold it out twice.
Well, your headline in Madison Square, like, I could tell, like, you have went to the Illuminati. Me, I'm 1 foot in, 1 foot out. I'm still streaming in the basement.
Can I just clarify something?
I'm still streaming in the basement. Like,
Can I clarify something?
Like, trust me, I'm not the guy who they're like, hey, bring him to the Illuminati.
You said I'm headlining Madison Square Garden.
Yeah.
But you didn't clarify how many times.
Yeah, I was
And that's
how many times is it?
It's 2 shows.
Yeah. God damn.
So don't ever.
Oh my God.
Like, I stand on business when it comes to that shit. Like,
And I understand that's a big milestone for him. You know, he's from New York, and performing there was a dream of his. And people are probably like, he can have his moment, but his whole life is having a moment. I mean, last year he was acting like he changed the game of comedy because he released his special on his own for $15. And then right after everybody bought it, like the next month, he posted it on YouTube for free. So he pretty much ripped off the fans that paid for it. And there's a lot more going on there, which I'm going to talk about more on Patreon. So make sure you guys go check that out. There's a ton of content on there. There's over 50 videos. And last week I talked about the most recent Protect Our Parks. There are a lot of good moments from that. So if you guys want some more content to watch, make sure you check it out. It's $5, and I'm only posting it on there. I'm never going to post it to YouTube. So make sure you go check it out, and then hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and I'll catch you at the next video.